So yeah, I've been into craft beer for a long time now, and I've seen a lot of trends come and go. And one of the trends that a lot of my friends have been trying to get me into are sour beers. I just haven't been able to make the jump. So that's why we're here in Ann Arbor, Michigan today to visit with one of the companies that's been doing sour beers the longest. And we've actually hooked up with a Michigan beer lover who's really into sour beers, and she wants to see if she can turn me to craft. Turning Craft is made possible by craft loyal sponsors like Ellison's, a custom privately held flavor house dedicated to creating natural flavor profiles for the brewing industry. Utilizing their more than 100 years of experience, Ellison's combines artisanal flavor techniques and innovation to elevate new and existing brands, helping them with consistency, efficiency, and impactfulness in brewing. Collaborate with Ellison's and taste the handcrafted difference. Michigan ranks 6th in the nation when it comes to the overall number of breweries within state lines. Equally impressive is the length of time which the aptly named Great Beer State has been contributing to American craft brewing. The world-famous Bell's Brewery has been cranking out suds for over 3 decades, and the state's oldest operating brewery dates back to the 19th century.
My name is Morgan. I'm from Battle Creek, Michigan. I am a Michigan craft beer enthusiast. About 3 months ago, I started my page on Instagram, kind of introducing different beers I'm trying. I travel around Southwest Michigan, checking out different breweries. I'm here today because I am a sour lover, so I'm really looking forward to converting Jeremy, see if I can actually turn him craft today.
To get our feel for Michigan sour beers, we decided to visit with a brewery who also has history, both in the southeastern Michigan beer scene and in creating the style.
My name is Chris Davies. I'm the head brewer at Arbor Brewing Company Brew Pub. I've been the head brewer here for 4 years. Arbor Brewing has been around since 1995. Tend to do a blend of both classic styles and sort of dip our toes into the waters of more contemporary beers. In 2002, we established a barrel aging sour program that's been going ever since. We still have our original 6 wine barrels downstairs. So this is our Devet. This is a batch that just had finished conditioning. It starts its life as a blonde ale, gets fermented out just like any other beer, and then we lay it down in our formerly used wine barrels.
I like sour gummies a lot. Okay. So I always try to pick out like which sour gummy this tastes like to me, you know?
Yeah, our sour beers tend to be very tart. Less funky.
They normally just all taste tart to me. So what's a funky sour?
It gets musty. That's what I pick up from some sours. It's borderline gym sock. That's not good to me. This is nice and tart and crisp. I don't get any funkiness from this one. Yeah,
I like that this beer is approachable and kind of entry level. It might be a little bit too tart for some people, but it's not, I don't think, too many steps removed from like a more tart or funky, maybe a barrel-aged cider.
No, I know it's probably a mistake of mine for not doing this because I usually do pairings all the time, but I don't normally pair sours with food, and it could be what I'm missing out on, I don't know.
Nachos are just a nice shareable plate. I think a lot of the depth of flavor of the nachos will complement a lot of elements of the beer. So
I would have never guessed like pairing a sour beer with some nachos, but I'm intrigued for sure. Yeah, honestly, this goes really well together. It's like that, especially when I get a bite of that pico.
The freshness of the pico and the guac opens up the flavor, I think.
A lot of the sharp flavors start to mute some of the more intense flavors of the beer so that you get to taste a different dimension of the beer than you were tasting before you had the nachos.
So what are you thinking of the flavor of the beer thus far?
I think my perception of it changed with the food for sure. That's a good pairing that I would have never expected. Never expected that.
If you could rate it on a 1 to 10, where are you at with this one right now?
Like when I first just started drinking the beer, it was kind of like, I like the taste. It's good flavor. Like I can appreciate everything behind it. but I wasn't like, I want to go back for more. But now that I'm having it with the nachos, I'm like, I can't stop grabbing the glass and I want to drink more.
So we have our cucumber lime goza here, paired with our mango and Napa cabbage salad. Idea here is just something really light and kind of easy drinking and eating, and sort of refreshing.
Help me understand, because the way I understand it goes is it's a traditional German style beer.
Yes.
With salt added. So is it kind of cheating calling it a sour, or has the style evolved? What's going on with that?
The style has certainly evolved, as a lot of the American interpretations of European styles have. Supposedly this style was brewed with a lot of wheat malt. It was salty, it was tart, and it was also brewed with coriander.
So salty should go really well with food. So what are we gonna pair with it?
Yeah, so this is a mango and Napa cabbage salad. It also has some cashews in it, so it's going to be a little creamy, have some kind of, have a little bit of the fattiness of both the cashews and kind of the texture of that with the mango. In general, this should taste like summer.
I want to take a sip of this beer first.
Yeah, let's try it.
It sounds like really refreshing. Yeah, that's definitely not as sour as the last one we tasted.
I get a lot of cucumber.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Pairs really well with the mango.
That's really yummy. Yeah, I don't know if you could have found a better pairing. This is just summer dish.
So Jeremy, now that you've had the first sour compared to this one that's a little more subtle of a sour, what do you think about the flavor of this one?
Well, this goza here is definitely a little more along the lines of what I like.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need a hopped up beer. Like, I can appreciate a lot of different styles. And goza's one I really got into early on. This is technically a sour beer, but it really doesn't fall there for me. So, I mean, you call this a sour, I definitely dig it. If I came in here as a customer and was like, I heard you guys have some really great sour beers. What would you recommend I do to get acclimated?
Yeah, this is definitely where I would start. Outside of not being as tart as a lot of our barrel-aged offerings, the goza almost has sort of a cocktail-y vibe, and I think that's just also the blend of the cucumber and the lime in it. So that can be an easy way too, to kind of dip your toe in that water. We do a lot of beer training with the staff so that they can hopefully make really educated suggestions to a guest, and hopefully your guest is giving you enough feedback that you can try to steer them in the right direction. So here we have Singing Saw, which began its life as our Buzzsaw IPA. Then we took some of it and put it into stainless steel fermenters, and then inoculated it with a Brettanomyces strain. Really just trying to, compared to the earlier beers where we were talking about things that were really intensely tart and less funky, this is going to be the opposite. This is going to be more funky and less tart.
I actually just had the Buzzsaw IPA, so I'm really excited to try this one and compare the difference, since that one's pretty fresh in my mind.
Cheers.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a Brett IPA like this before. It's a little more on the malty side than I think I've had.
Now, to me, this one seems a little more funky, less tart. So do you feel like this one's easier to drink compared to the first sour we had?
Yeah, both of the ones we had after the blonde sour have been more according to,
Your style?
my taste.
Yeah, I can feel that this one's a much higher percentage than the first two we had.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
warming up.
Yeah, my ears feel a little warm on this one.
This is definitely one to share with the crew.
Definitely.
Thank you, sir.
Let's see how it pairs with this pizza.
I'll hold this end down here.
Well, pizza is definitely the way to my heart.
I think you can't really do a bad pizza beer pairing.
This is a really well balanced pairing. It's not like a regular like hop forward IPA, but kind of smother whatever you're eating sometimes.
Yep.
With this this kind of takes a little bit of a backseat and lets the flavors meld together a little bit. I really like that. So we've got the original, and then the Funky Brett
And then the funky
that we
version.
tried. And what I noticed, I already took a sip, is that this is a really good West Coast style IPA.
It should be right up your alley.
Very hop forward, coats the palate, very floral and fruity in aroma. Just, this is my kind of IPA right here. I think being able to taste two beers that have the same base and getting to see the difference, or getting to see how different they are from each other because of what happened in the brewing process is just a fun thing to do.
I feel like it's helpful for someone like you because you know what you like. You know you like IPAs. So to try this one and then see a twist on it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the science experiment that I think a lot of drinkers don't get to enjoy. That's stuff that I feel like brewers are always kind of tinkering with in the lab. They're trying to figure out what's like the good version of the barrel aged version or something along those lines where you're trying to figure out what's the best version of a beer. So that might be you brew 20 batches of a beer. But to have these two beers side by side, that I feel like gives an easy road in where you...
Yeah, and obviously when you take something like this that you might be averse to, just trying it out right and having it with food, it gives you that first experience, that introduction to something. I've definitely been opened up.
That's good to know. And no meat, still satisfied?
We might need to create an entirely different show to get me off of meat. But I definitely enjoyed what I had to eat here today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think to begin with, he was still a little hesitant. The first one we tried was pretty tart and sour, but I think by the last one we tried, he was really won over.
Paddle for Pints is a brewery pub paddle on Traverse City's beautiful Bourbon Lake and River in West Bay. Wave leaders guide you on an urban paddle through downtown Traverse City for over 6 hours, visiting up to 6 breweries. It's an adventure and a pub paddle not to be missed. We learned so much when we film on the road, getting to view a state through the lens of its beer industry. In Michigan, we got an education in agriculture by visiting one of its top hop growers, Hophead Farms. We'll be about 30 days away from harvest.
Depending on variety, 3 weeks to maybe 6 weeks away, depending on the weather. That's a long shot. That's more than a quarter mile long.
Oh, wow. These little baby cones.
Yeah, well, we call these burrs.
Burrs?
And those, everywhere you see a burr, that's going to be a cone.
How many cones per, this is called a vine, right?
Yeah, it's a vine, modified vine. See if you can just kind of rub your fingers down it this way.
Yeah.
You can feel they grip. And some people like me are allergic to it.
Oh.
So if one hits my arm, I'll get a big red welt.
Does it happen often?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yes, and the worst one is when you get it right here. Oh. Right in the mouth, and then like the corners of your mouth are like all
geez.
red, and yeah. Hop farming is not for the
hop
weak.
farmer. Wow.
For sure. Not for the weak. So we started in 2012. It was February of 2012. We came out and did soil samples, and then we started tilling the land, and the first year we actually hired a contractor to come in and build our first trellis, because when we started we didn't even have a tractor. We had nothing to build a trellis with, so we hired a contractor. They came out and built our first one. And then we actually had volunteers, people who were interested in hops, come out and help us do all the planting the first year.
Just local beer enthusiasts?
Just people who were interested in growing hops.
Ellison Brewery and Distillery is a young craft beverage business in East Lansing, and they're doing their part to put Michigan's capital on the map for brewing. Our social media community had recommended we stop there because they were making some great hazy pale ales, but we found out that they're doing way more than any IPAs.
Being that Lansing is the capital of Michigan, we should be well known for something other than cars, because we make a lot of cars here. Well,
yeah, we do make a lot of cars.
We make a lot of Cadillacs. It is important to bring back. The capital should have great beer. And if you go way back in history, there used to be a brewery in every city across America. It was just a staple. And over the years we lost that and went into a whole nother direction. And it's nice to see history repeat itself. So I think there is a spot for a brewery in every community.
You're not gonna have a Founders in every city.
No. That time has probably passed us. But there is definitely an opportunity to be the local watering hole for every community.
a lot of people call this place, because it's kind of off the beaten path in an industrial park, it's the Speakeasy, right? There's not a ton of signs. You kind of got to know where it is. If you don't know where it is, you got to search pretty hard to find it. But once you know where it's at, it's like, oh, let's go to Ellison for a pint real quick, And it's the old time, local joint, right? And that's what we tried to make it feel like. It's not the glitz and the glam and the huge pretty marketing and shiny objects. It's like, no, just come in, like sit on a wood bench, have a pint, sit at a table with two people you don't know and have a conversation. Who cares? Like, play games, just relax. We want it to be relaxing and have fun.
All right, so this is Dawn Street Pale Ale. This is one of our flagship beers. We've been making this for 8-9 months, so somewhat new. Our biggest thing was we wanted to bring back pale ales. I think that pale ale has been overlooked in the craft beer scene a lot, and it was really important for us to bring it back. And it was a good entry spot for us to try a little bit of cloudiness and make it different. So, give it a try. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh yeah. Hazy pale.
Yep. 6.5%.
Not too juicy.
Nope. And a good middle of the road.
So you said it's a flagship now.
Yes.
But it's a really new beer.
It's pretty new.
How does such a new beer become a flagship so quickly?
Well, for us, we brew on a 10-barrel system, and when we decide to make something new, having a 10-barrel system helps us to just make it. And we'll try it here in the pub and see what the reaction is. And usually we know within a couple weeks if it's going to go to the next level. Once we got the pub's reaction that they loved it, we decided to scale it up and push out into distribution. So I think that our palates in particular always want something different, something more. It's a good and bad problem to have. It's hard to build loyalty on a particular style that you're making versus our friends at Bell's with Two Hearted. I mean, it's such a flagship beer. For us, who's only 3 years old, it's hard to find what that is and then mass produce it. Oh, yeah.
So it's really cool that we're getting to see how the beer gets soured. And I have one really big question.
I have one really big answer.
What's with the cheesecloth?
So these the totes that you guys see here with the cheesecloth, those are actually, that's sugar wort being fermented with bacterial yeast strains that we put the cheesecloth so it can vent out, but then no particulate falls in. So yeah, so what you guys have in your glass, it's called Fiona, and it is a red sour with black currants and blackberries. Cheers. Cheers. It's about 7%.
Yeah.
Smooth, a little tart, not overly tart.
That might be my favorite of the day.
Yeah.
So now that you started with sours, we switched it up and had a few things in between. Going back to sours, how are you feeling?
This one is more fruity than anything I've tried today. And I like that.
That's what I like about sours, is when you can taste the fruit beneath it. Not only is it just tart, but there's flavor behind it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm starting to dig sours a little bit more. I really am.
I'm glad to hear that.
There he goes. Convert, welcome to the dark side.
I think we got him to turn craft on the sours.
There you go. There's a reason why they're popular in Europe for the last 500 years, right? They're good. Do them well and they're really good. So half the battle here is just getting the education to everyone and, introducing people to it. So.
And I think I fit right in with that, and I'm not one to argue with tradition. It just wasn't my thing for a while, but thanks to you, Aaron, thanks to you, Morgan, I've definitely opened my palate today, and I'm going to be trying some more of these. So.
It's good.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.